Before she ever left town, the cowboy said, "You're mine." Though they called her a mail-order bride, the Martian dust storm had finally cleared, leaving the colony town of Red Mesa glowing under a pale sun. Red sand crunched under the hoverport's metal platforms as travelers moved carefully, shielding their eyes against the last streaks of wind. Clara Whitmore stepped off the orbital shuttle, gripping the small metal case she had carried for days. She had been called many things on the journey from Earth: a mail-order bride, a stranger, someone who didn't belong. None of it mattered to her. She had a job to do, and she would survive here, one dusty step at a time. The town itself was a strange mix of old and new. Wooden saloons leaned against metallic facades, and neon signs flickered over dusty streets. Hover carts trailed behind the main road like mechanical cattle. Some townsfolk eyed Clara suspiciously, whispering to each other as she passed. She could feel their judgment in every glance. She held her head high. She wouldn't let anyone scare her. Not here, not anywhere. Ryder Kane was watching. From the corner of the hoverport, he leaned against a rail, his long coat flapping slightly in the remaining wind. He was tall, with sun-baked skin and eyes sharp as a predator's. A faint glint of cybernetic enhancement ran along the side of his neck, blinking softly. He had seen a lot of travelers in his life, but something about Clara stopped him cold. When she stepped onto the street, brushing the red dust from her coat, he felt it, an electric pull he hadn't felt in years. He walked toward her, each step deliberate, his boots clicking against the metal platform. The townsfolk parted just slightly, sensing the weight of his presence. Clara turned at the sound, her dark eyes meeting his. She did not know him, she had never met him, and yet before he spoke, she could feel his attention wrapped around her, sharp and unrelenting. "You're mine," he said. The words were blunt, confident, like a gunshot in the quiet of the Martian morning. Clara froze. She blinked at him, taken aback. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice firm, though her pulse had quickened. "You heard me," Ryder said, tipping the brim of his hat. "I don't know why, and I don't need to. But you... right there. You're mine." The hoverport around them seemed to fade. People whispered, eyes wide. A couple of kids pointed, tugging at their mother's coat. Clara's fingers tightened around her case. She had expected a cold reception, maybe some distrust, but not this. Not a man claiming her as his before she had even set foot in town. I'm not sure what you mean," Clara said, trying to steady her voice. She wanted to take a step back, but her boots were heavy against the dusty platform. Ryder's gaze didn't waver. "You'll understand soon enough," he said, his voice low and steady. "I always get what I want. And I want you here." The words sent a shiver down Clara's spine. Something about him was dangerous, something about him was protective. She couldn't decide whether to trust him or to run. The townsfolk began to murmur louder, the whispers filling the air. "Mail-order bride," someone muttered. "She's one of those." Clara's cheeks flushed. She had expected prejudice, yes, but she had not expected open judgment the moment she arrived. She lifted her chin, standing taller. "I didn't come here to answer gossip," she said. "I came here for my own life." "Nothing else." Ryder nodded once, almost approvingly. "Good. Keep that fire. You'll need it." Before she could respond, a commotion broke near the edge of the hoverport. Several people were gathering around a hovercart that had tipped over, its cargo spilling red dust and small mechanical parts across the platform. Ryder's eyes flicked toward it, then back to Clara. For a moment his expression softened, but only slightly. "You'd better come with me," he said, gesturing toward the town. "The streets aren't safe for someone new." "Not today," Clara hesitated. She had come to this town to start fresh, not to be led around by some stranger. And yet, something in his presence made the idea feel safer than anything else around her. She took a cautious step forward. "Lead the way," she said, surprising herself. The walk into town was quiet at first. Red Mesa was alive with low hums of energy generators and occasional clatters from hovering machines. Wooden buildings leaned on metal scaffolds, as if holding on to the past while struggling with the present. Clara noticed the signs warning of unstable terrain, the flickering lights above the saloons, and the occasional glint of cybernetic eyes peering from narrow windows. Ryder didn't speak much. He seemed to know every street, every corner, every shadow. Clara studied him in silence. There was a confidence about him, a careful awareness, and a rough kindness buried somewhere deep behind the hardness of his gaze. "You're not like the others," Ryder said suddenly, breaking the silence. "You've got fire. And brains. That combination. It doesn't come around often." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Brains?" That's what you noticed first? He smirked, a faint glint of amusement crossing his face. Don't underestimate me, he said. I notice everything. As they reached the town square, Clara felt the weight of the stairs on her. People whispered behind shutters and doors. Children peeked from corners. She could feel the tension, the judgment, but she also felt something else, a spark of curiosity. Maybe this town wasn't just a place to survive. Maybe it was a place where she could be more than what people expected. A small inn stood at the edge of the square. Its wooden sign swayed in the wind, the Red Dust Inn. Ryder led her inside. The inn was dimly lit, with a warm glow from electric lanterns and the faint scent of cooked rations. Travelers and townsfolk alike gave them brief, cautious glances but quickly returned to their own business. You'll stay here, Ryder said, pulling a key from his coat. Rooms are ready, and keep your things close. The town has eyes everywhere. Clara accepted the key, her fingers brushing against his. There was a brief electricity in the contact, and she quickly withdrew her hand. Thank you, she said, voice steady. Ryder nodded, then stepped back toward the door. I'll be around, he said. Keep your fire. You'll need it soon. Clara watched him leave, the door sliding shut behind him. She set her case on the floor and sank onto the bed, exhaling slowly. She had expected a new life to be simple. She had not expected it to begin with, a cowboy claiming her as his before she even knew him. Hours passed, and the Martian sun dipped lower, turning the sky a deep orange red. Clara peeked out the window of her room, looking at the sprawling town below. The streets were quiet now, but she could see flickers of movement, shadows that didn't belong, whispers of things to come. Her thoughts returned to Ryder. Who was he, really? Why had he claimed her so boldly? And most importantly, could she trust him? Clara didn't have answers yet, but she had determination. She would survive. She would understand this town. And she would find her own place within it, even if the entire colony doubted her. A soft vibration ran through the building. Clara tensed. The Martian ground sometimes trembled, a reminder that this was not Earth. But this felt different. A subtle pulse, almost like a heartbeat beneath the red dust. She pressed her hand against the window, feeling it faintly. Something was coming. Something that would change everything. She glanced at the door. Ryder's warning echoed in her mind. Keep your fire. You'll need it soon. Clara smiled faintly. She didn't know what was coming, but she would face it. Alone or with him. And somewhere, outside in the desert wind, Ryder Kane watched from the shadows. He had sensed it too, the tremor beneath the dust. He knew that tomorrow would bring more than just gossip, more than just danger. And somehow, he was certain that Clara Whitmore would be at the center of it. For the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope. Red Mesa was a harsh town. Life on Mars was harsh. But somehow, in the middle of red dust and whispers, two people had found each other. And whatever storms were coming, they would face them together. The next morning, the Martian sky was a pale pink, soft and fragile against the red horizon. Clara Whitmore dressed quickly in her simple but practical outfit, securing the small tools and devices she had carried from Earth. She had been careful on the shuttle, but she was determined to prove herself here, not as a mail-order bride, but as someone capable, strong, and independent. The Red Dust Inn smelled of fried protein rations and warm bread. A few early risers ate quietly, casting occasional glances at Clara. She felt their curiosity, their silent judgment, but she ignored it. She had survived worse. She picked up her small case and stepped outside, letting the cool Martian wind wash over her. The streets were quieter than yesterday, but there was a tension hanging in the air, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Ryder Kane was already there. Leaning against a rail near the saloon, he watched the town with those sharp, calculating eyes. He noticed Clara immediately. Her gaze met his, and she nodded slightly. He returned the gesture, subtle but filled with unspoken understanding. Today the work would begin. You don't have to follow me, Clara said as she approached. I can manage my own way. Ryder straightened, dust falling from his coat. I know that, he said, voice calm. But the town isn't safe, not for someone new. You need to know who to trust. And right now, I'm the only one who does. Clara studied him, weighing his words. There was honesty in his tone, even if it was rough and unpolished. She decided to accept his guidance, at least for now. All right, she said. But I make my own choices. Ryder nodded once, as if approving. Together they walked through the streets of Red Mesa. The town had changed since yesterday. Markets were open, neon signs flickered above shops, and the smell of fried protein and recycled air filled the narrow streets. The townsfolk watched them, whispering under their breaths. Clara noticed a few children pointing, and she smiled faintly, realizing that her arrival had already become part of the town's gossip. "You'll need to learn quickly," Ryder said, his gaze scanning the horizon. "This isn't Earth. People here survive on caution, speed, and knowing who's really dangerous." Clara raised an eyebrow. "And you're the expert on that?" Ryder smirked faintly. "I've been around longer than most. I know how to handle trouble before it finds you." As they approached the outskirts of town, a sudden noise made Clara freeze. A hover cart had overturned near a supply depot, its mechanical parts scattered across the sand. Sparks flickered from exposed circuits and a low hum of energy pulsed through the air. Ryder moved quickly, drawing a small energy pistol from his coat. "Stay back," he said sharply, his eyes narrowing. Clara watched him closely. She had never seen anyone handle a malfunctioning machine with such precision. He disarmed the sparking cart with careful movements, tapping and redirecting energy with skill she hadn't expected. She felt a spark of admiration, even though she would never admit it aloud. "You're good at that," she said, stepping closer. "Better than I thought." Ryder glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I've had to be," he said. "This town doesn't forgive mistakes. Neither does Mars." Clara followed him as he led her to the edge of town, where an abandoned rail station sat half buried in red dust. The station was quiet, shadows stretching across its broken platforms. Ryder stopped and turned to her, his expression serious. "There's something you need to know," he said. "I'm not just a cowboy. I work with Martian security. We track illegal tech, alien artifacts, and anything that could threaten the colony. Right now, there's a shipment coming in. It's special. And there are people who will do anything to get it." Claire's eyes widened. She had expected danger in this town, sure, but this was more than she had imagined. "Alien artifacts?" she whispered. Ryder nodded. "Yes. And your skills could make a difference." Clara felt a mix of fear and excitement. She had always been good with technology, understanding machines and devices in ways others could not. If she could help protect the town, maybe she would finally prove herself not as a mail-order bride, but as someone capable, someone important. The first test came sooner than she expected. From the edge of the rail station, Clara noticed a small gang moving toward the town. They were rough-looking, dressed in patched coats and helmets with dimly glowing visors. Ryder tensed, placing a hand on his pistol. "They're here for the shipment," he said quietly. "We need to slow them down before they reach the town." Clara's mind raced. She could see the possibilities, using the abandoned tech around the station, the old security turrets, even the rail lines themselves. "I can help," she said. "Let me try something." Ryder studied her for a moment. He had sensed her potential earlier, but now he saw it in action. "All right," he said. "Do it." Clara ran to a small control panel near the platform, her fingers moving quickly over buttons and switches. Sparks flew and a low hum of energy grew louder. She tapped into the station's old security system, redirecting power to the turrets and activating warning lights. The gang noticed immediately, slowing their approach as red flashes lit the night. Ryder smiled faintly, impressed. "Not bad," he said. The gang realized their mistake and tried to move faster, but Clara had anticipated their route. The rail tracks shifted slightly and a mechanical cart rolled down, blocking the gang's hover carts. Ryder took advantage of the chaos, moving with precision to disarm and capture the intruders one by one. After the gang was secured, Ryder turned to Clara. "You did well," he said. "Better than well. You saved the shipment and probably the town." Clara felt a rush of pride. "I didn't do it alone," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Ryder shook his head, smiling faintly. "No, but you were the difference." "That's why you're here. That's why I asked you to stay close." She had never expected recognition like this. Not from a man like Ryder, and not in a town like Red Mesa. She felt a spark of something unfamiliar. Trust, maybe even friendship. The rest of the day passed with a cautious calm. Clara explored the town, learning its streets, its people, and its secrets. She noticed the whispers following her, the curious stares, but she no longer felt afraid. Ryder was nearby, a silent guardian, and she had proven herself capable. By evening, the town had settled into a strange rhythm. The Martian sky darkened to a deep violet, stars beginning to peek through the thin atmosphere. Clara sat outside the inn, looking at the horizon, The wind carried a faint hum, the same pulse she had felt the day before. Something was coming. Something bigger than a gang or a shipment. Ryder joined her, sitting on the wooden railing beside her. "You handled yourself well today," he said. "But tomorrow, things will get harder." Clara looked at him, curious.
Harder than what? He glanced at the horizon, eyes narrowing.
"I don't know yet, but I can feel it. Mars doesn't stay quiet for long. And neither do the people who want those artifacts." Clara nodded slowly, understanding. She had come here to start fresh, but the town had already given her purpose. She wasn't just surviving. She was part of something bigger. Ryder looked at her, his expression softening. "You're not like the others," he said. "Most people come here and fold under pressure. You face it, and that's rare." Clara felt warmth spread in her chest. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means a lot coming from you." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars emerge one by one. The red dust settled around the town, and for a moment, everything felt calm. But both of them knew it was only temporary. The pulse beneath the Martian soil was growing stronger, a reminder that danger was never far away. As the night deepened, Clara returned to her room, tired but alive. She had faced her first challenge and survived. She had started to understand Ryder Kane and the town of Red Mesa, and for the first time, she felt that maybe, just maybe, she belonged here. Outside, Ryder watched from the shadows, sensing the same pulse Clara had felt. He knew that the arrival of alien artifacts and the chaos they would bring was only the beginning. But he also knew that with Clara by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next. Red Mesa had tested her. Mars had tested them both. And tomorrow, the real adventure would begin. The Martian night was alive with tension. Red Mesa lay under a pale, reddish moon, its streets empty except for the occasional glow of flickering neon signs. The air smelled of ozone and dust, and a faint hum pulsed beneath the ground, a reminder that Mars itself was not quiet. Clara Whitmore peered out from her window at the Red Dust Inn, her mind racing. The warning pulse she had felt the last 2 days had grown stronger. Something was coming, and it would not wait for permission. Ryder Kane arrived silently, leaning against the doorway of her room. His coat flapped gently in the wind, and the faint glint of his cybernetic eye scanned the horizon. "It's time," he said, voice low and steady. "They're here." Clara swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the windowsill. "Who's here?" she asked. "More than just the small gang we saw yesterday," Ryder said, his jaw tight. "There's a bigger threat. They want the alien artifacts, and they won't stop until they have them." Clara nodded, taking a deep breath. Fear was there, yes, but so was determination. She had survived the first test. She could survive this too. Together, they stepped outside. The streets were quiet, but the silence was false. Red dust swirled around their boots as they moved through the town, heading toward the supply depot where the artifacts were being kept. Old wooden walkways creaked beneath them, and the faint buzz of energy shields hummed under the building. As they approached, a sudden flash of light made Clara duck instinctively. A group of armed figures emerged from the shadows, their visors glowing with a cold, alien blue. The gang from before was joined by strangers, heavily armed, heavily enhanced. The artifacts were clearly important to them, and they were ready to kill for them. Ryder moved like lightning, drawing his energy pistol and firing precise shots at the attackers. Clara followed instinctively, using her knowledge of the depot's old tech. She activated turrets, redirected energy fields, and caused a cascade of mechanical traps to spring into action. Sparks flew, and the air was filled with the sharp smell of burning circuits. One of the attackers advanced too quickly. Clara grabbed a nearby rail lever and swung it, knocking him off balance. He crashed against a stack of crates, stunned but not defeated. Ryder was beside her in a second, disarming another intruder with a quick fluid motion. "Keep moving!" Ryder shouted. "We need to secure the artifacts." Clara nodded, her hands flying over a control panel. The energy shields around the depot flickered, then strengthened as she rerouted power. The attackers hesitated, unsure how to breach the defenses. Clara felt a thrill. She had never used her skills like this before. Not under real danger, not for life and death. But the fight was far from over. A sudden explosion rocked the depot, throwing both Clara and Ryder to the ground. Dust filled the air, and sparks rained from overhead cables. One of the attackers had hacked into a nearby hoverbike and crashed it into the building, trying to break through the defenses. Ryder pulled Clara up, shielding her with his body. "Move," he shouted. "We need cover." Clara ran, her boots clattering against the metal floor. She spotted an old maintenance hatch and dragged Ryder toward it. Together they slipped inside, breathing hard. Sparks and red dust filled the air outside, and the sounds of battle echoed through the depot. "I can't let them get the artifacts," Clara said, determination in her eyes. "We have to protect them no matter what." Ryder nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I know. And with you here, we stand a chance." They emerged into the control room, overlooking the depot floor. Claire's eyes scanned the systems, and she quickly formulated a plan. She would use the depot's automated defense drones, redirecting their targeting systems to the intruders. Ryder would take the ground, using his combat skills to hold the attackers off. Clara's fingers flew over the controls, energy humming under her touch. Red lights flashed, and drones lifted silently into the air, targeting the intruders with precision. The attackers scrambled, firing back, but Clara's systems were too efficient. One by one, they were disarmed or forced to retreat. Ryder moved through the chaos like a shadow. He disarmed, blocked, and countered with skill and precision. Each move was calculated, each step deliberate. He fought not just with strength, but with strategy, using the environment to his advantage. Clara watched him, impressed and grateful. Together they were unstoppable. The last attacker tried a desperate move, charging the control panel. Clara reacted instantly, flipping a switch that activated a magnetic field, throwing him across the room. He hit the wall with a crash, unconscious. The depot fell silent, except for the hum of energy shields and the faint pulse beneath the Martian soil. Clara and Ryder stood among the debris, breathing heavily. Red dust clung to their clothes, and sparks still fell from exposed wires. "We did it," Clara said, her voice shaking but proud. Ryder looked at her, his expression softening. "You did it," he corrected. "You were the difference. Without you, we wouldn't have made it." Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had proven herself, not just to Ryder, but to herself. She was more than a mail-order bride. She was capable, strong, and brave. Ryder stepped closer, his eyes scanning the room for any remaining threat. "Are you okay?" he asked. Clara nodded. "Yes, I think so." He studied her for a moment, then gave a faint smile. "You're tougher than I thought. And smarter." The adrenaline of the fight still thrummed in their veins as they secured the artifacts. Ryder placed them carefully in a reinforced container, and Clara double-checked the systems to ensure no intruder could access them again. As they worked, the Martian sky began to lighten, signaling the approach of dawn. Red Mesa was quiet once more, but both of them knew it was only temporary. The pulse beneath the soil still throbbed, faint but insistent. Something larger was coming, something that would challenge them even more. Ryder glanced at Clara, his expression unreadable. "Tomorrow won't be easy," he said. "But today we survived, and that matters." Clara looked at him, her heart pounding. "We survived because we worked together," she said. Ryder nodded slowly. "Yes, together." For the first time since she arrived, Clara felt a connection not just to Ryder, but to this harsh red world. She belonged here, in this town, with this cowboy, and whatever challenges came next, she was ready to face them. Outside, the first rays of Martian sunlight broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the town. Red Mesa was still rough, still unforgiving, but it was alive. And within that life, Clara Whitmore had found her place. Ryder stood beside her, silent and watchful. The pulse beneath the Martian soil was growing stronger, a reminder that danger was never far away. But tonight, they had won, and that was enough. The night's battle had tested them, forced them to trust each other, and revealed the depths of their courage. Clara knew that the coming days would be even harder, but she also knew she was not alone. Ryder Kane was there, a steadfast presence in the chaos, and together, they could face whatever Mars had in store. As the dawn fully broke over Red Mesa, Clara allowed herself a small smile. She had arrived as a stranger, a mail-order bride with no claim to the town. But now, after fire and dust, after sparks and danger, she had proven herself. She was a fighter, a protector, and perhaps in some way, Ryder Kane's equal. And somewhere in the red dust beyond the town, the pulse grew louder, a reminder that the adventure was far from over. Dawn spread over Red Mesa like liquid gold, casting long shadows across the dusty streets. The air was calm now, quiet except for the faint hum of distant machines and the soft wind stirring red sand. Clara Whitmore stepped out of the Red Dust Inn, brushing dust from her coat. Her hand still trembled slightly from the previous night's battle, but her heart felt light. She had faced danger, fought alongside Ryder Kane, and survived. The town was slowly coming back to life. Shops opened their shutters, children peeked out of corners, and townsfolk whispered in the streets, their tone now filled more with respect than curiosity. Clara noticed the difference. She was no longer the outsider, the mail-order bride who had arrived in Red Mesa. She was someone who had proven herself. Ryder Kane joined her silently. He had been making rounds, checking the town for any lingering threats. His coat was dusted with red sand, his eyes alert and sharp. Yet, when he looked at Clara, his expression softened, just slightly. "You handled yourself well yesterday," he said, voice low and calm. "I've seen a lot of people try. Most fail. You didn't." Clara smiled faintly. "We didn't fail because we worked together," she said. Ryder nodded. "True, but you were the difference. You made the right choices when it mattered. That counts more than anything." They walked through the town together, moving carefully but confidently. The debris from the battle had been cleared, the stolen artifacts secured, and the intruders either captured or fled into the Martian plains. Red Mesa was alive, its heart beating steadily once again. Clara paused near the town square, watching the townsfolk as they went about their day. She had seen fear and judgment in their eyes yesterday. Today, there was admiration, respect, and a hint of curiosity. She felt a small thrill of pride. For the first time, she felt she truly belonged. Ryder stood beside her, his gaze scanning the horizon as if expecting danger to return at any moment. "This isn't over," he said. "There are bigger threats out there. The artifacts we protected, they're part of something much larger. I can feel it." Clara looked at him, her mind racing. "Then we'll face them," she said, voice firm. "Together." Ryder's eyes softened. He had grown used to facing challenges alone, relying only on his skill and instincts. But Clara had changed that. She had shown courage, intelligence, and loyalty beyond what he had expected. Together, he agreed. They returned to the depot where the alien artifacts were stored. The containers hummed faintly, pulsing with unknown energy. Clara examined them, marveling at the strange symbols and intricate designs etched into their surfaces. She knew they were powerful more than anyone in Red Mesa fully understood. Ryder stood behind her, keeping watch. "We need to keep these safe," he said. "Mars can be unforgiving, and there are people, dangerous people, who will come for them." Clara nodded. "I'll make sure the systems are secure," she said. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panels, activating security drones and reinforcing energy shields. The process was meticulous, but she worked with calm precision. Ryder watched her, impressed by her skill. "You've become essential," he said. "Not just to me, but to this town." Clara felt warmth rise in her chest. She had come to Red Mesa as a stranger, a newcomer, someone doubted by everyone. Yet now, she was recognized, trusted, and valued. The thought filled her with a quiet satisfaction she had never known. As the morning sun climbed higher, Ryder led her back to the inn. They paused at the doorway, looking out over the town. The streets were alive with activity, the threat of danger momentarily gone. Clara felt a sense of peace, rare and fleeting in a place like Red Mesa. "You've changed things," Ryder said softly. "Not just for yourself, but for everyone here."
They'll remember what you did.
Clara looked at him, meeting his gaze. "I didn't do it alone," she said. He smiled faintly. "No, you didn't. But you were the one who made it possible." A moment of silence passed between them, the kind that spoke more than words ever could. Clara realized how much she had come to rely on Ryder, not just for protection, but for guidance, partnership, and trust. And she sensed he felt the same. The town's bell rang in the square, signaling the start of a new day. People moved with purpose, going about their lives. Clara and Ryder walked among them, not as strangers or outsiders, but as part of the community. The whispers that had once followed her were now replaced with nods of recognition, small gestures of respect. She had arrived as a mail-order bride, but she was leaving behind the expectations of the past. Later, as the sun reached its zenith, Clara and Ryder stood on a small hill overlooking Red Mesa. The Martian plains stretched endlessly, red and golden under the bright light. A soft wind stirred, carrying the faint pulse from below the surface. The artifacts were secure, the town was safe, for now, but they both knew this was only the beginning. Ryder looked at Clara, his expression serious. "Mars has a way of testing people," he said. "It tests strength, courage, and loyalty. You passed every test I've seen." Clara smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "And I'll face whatever comes next," she said. "With you." Ryder's eyes softened. He reached out, taking her hand gently. "I was wrong before," he admitted. "I thought claiming you would be enough. But it's more than that. You've earned your place here, by choice, by courage, and by who you are." Clara's heart beat faster. She had never expected such words from Ryder Kane, the rugged, silent cowboy who had appeared in her life like a storm. But hearing them now, she felt something shift, a bond forming, strong and undeniable. They stood together, hand in hand, overlooking the town they had fought to protect. Red Mesa was harsh, red dust swirling in the wind, neon lights flickering in the streets, but in that moment, it felt alive, full of possibilities and theirs to shape. The artifacts pulsed faintly, a soft reminder that their adventures were far from over. Clara glanced at Ryder, determination in her eyes. "We'll be ready," she said. He nodded. "Yes. Together." The town below them stirred with life. Children ran across the dusty streets, vendors shouted their wares, and the Martian sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across Red Mesa. The pulse beneath the ground was faint, almost reassuring now, a heartbeat of the planet itself. Clara realized that this town, this world, and this life were hers to claim. She had arrived as a stranger, a mail-order bride with nothing but hope and courage. She had faced danger, proved her worth, and found a place where she belonged. Ryder squeezed her hand gently. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we face it together. No matter what." Clara smiled, her heart full. "No matter what," she echoed. The wind carried the scent of red dust and the faint hum of Martian machines. The horizon stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown challenges, adventures, and discoveries. But for the first time, Clara Whitmore felt ready for it all. Red Mesa had tested them, but it had also united them. Ryder Kane and Clara Whitmore stood together, not as strangers or outsiders, but as partners, as protectors, and as something more. As the sun rose higher over the Martian plains, the town of Red Mesa settled into its rhythm, alive and vibrant once more. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the faint pulse of the alien artifacts promised new adventures, new dangers, and new stories yet to be told. But for now, Clara and Ryder could stand together, proud, strong, and ready for whatever the future held. And in that golden light, with the red dust swirling at their feet, they both knew that they had found more than safety or victory. They had found a place, a purpose, and each other. Red Mesa was no longer just a harsh town on Mars. It was home,